Hello and welcome to a post-game Cyhawk edition of the Cyclone Insider. I'm Travis Hines. He's Eugene Rapay coming to you on Saturday evening from Jack Trice Stadium, which just saw Iowa State claim a 16-13 rivalry victory over Iowa for the second straight year. Kyle Konrady is the Cyclone hero with, for the second straight year, a 54-yard game winner. This one may be a little less dramatic as there was still just under 2 minutes to play, where last year I think there was 6 or 7 seconds. But nonetheless, the result is the same, an Iowa State victory. Iowa State now 3-0 with, and I said this, Eugene, after the game in my instant take, like, is there a team in the country that can match Iowa State for its wins against Kansas State and Iowa? I don't know that there is. They have two. Like, Iowa State obviously gets the benefit of already having played 3 games, one being against a conference team. But things are good in Ames right now. Let's talk a little bit about the game. Let's start at the end. That felt like a classic Iowa plays terrible for 55 minutes and snatches a victory from Iowa State or any, pick your team. Like, it's incredible how often they do that under Ferentz. But at the end of the day, Iowa State does enough to get the stop, to go move the ball down the field for Konrady's 54-yarder. I thought certainly not a great performance overall by Iowa State, but a gutty one and good enough to win against what I think is probably a good Iowa team. Not a great Iowa team, but a good Iowa team.
Yeah, it definitely feels like anytime you can squeeze out a win in this rivalry series, you'll definitely take it, especially over the last 7, 8 years or even the last decade. All the games have been decided by 10 or fewer points. There's been always a close game year in and year out. And for Iowa State to pull together a win when at moments, especially in that first couple of drives, it looked like, oh, wow, they're going to move the ball in this Iowa defense, moving the ball methodically. They established a run game, pretty good shape. Defense is getting stops. Mark Gronowski doesn't look comfortable. But then they let Iowa hang around for a long time. Iowa starts to come back in there and settle in the second half, but Iowa State was able to do just enough to hang on for the win and pull away and put themselves in position to now improve to 3-0.
Yeah, I mean, I think Iowa State had to be – I mean, it had a chance to really blow the game open early. Like, they had great field position early on between a bad Iowa punt, a Jeremiah Cooper interception, and they only turned it into 6 points. Like, it should have probably been 14-0 after the first 2 Iowa drives, and they would have had a chance to put their foot on Iowa's throat. Were unable to do it, and then they get what I think is probably a bad call. Like, the replay, I think, showed catch interference. I think it showed the ball hitting an Iowa fan or an Iowa player before Xavier Townsend. But regardless, a muff punt, and it kind of blew up the whole game for Iowa State with I guess what you have to technically call it a muff punt. Like, whatever the call, good, bad, or indifferent, like Iowa State, as Rocco Beck talked about earlier on Tuesday, and I thought that was so interesting, that they didn't have momentum ever in this game. He felt like they finally had momentum and they didn't capitalize on it. They didn't capitalize on it early, and then it really got stolen away, where it felt like not that Iowa was in control, but that Iowa had asserted itself in a way that Iowa State could have prevented. And like I said earlier, when that happens in a game, like, that's a game Iowa goes and wins. Like, that is what has been a huge part of their success under Kirk Ferentz, is to stick around, go snatch a win. And I really thought there for a moment it was touch and go for Iowa State in terms of giving control of the game to Iowa. And to their credit, that did not happen. Iowa State did not trail in this game. Iowa State has not trailed this season yet. And I do think it speaks to a toughness and a resiliency, but by what is proving to be a pretty tough and mature group that Matt Campbell's got.
Yeah, the muff punt was definitely a killer, and you could tell that it frustrated everybody in the stadium who was dressed in Cardinal and gold. But I felt like when Iowa State's defense could have had a 3rd down stop in their own red zone, probably force Iowa to settle for a field goal. And then you have the holding penalty, plus the unsportsmanlike conduct that now erases that 3rd down stop, which would have been a sack, to now giving the Hawkeyes 1st and goal at the 2, and they punch it right in, and then they make it a 3-point game. And for Iowa, who had been struggling offensively for probably 90-95% of the game, you give them a lifeline like that. Now, all of a sudden, like you said, Travis, you don't capitalize on the 2 opening drives where you're moving the ball well. It feels like you had Iowa on the ropes early with a chance to knock them down and really step on their necks. now you let a team like that hang around, anything goes. But to the Cyclones' credit and to that whole theme of toughness that has been big throughout the whole offseason, preseason, they find a way to win. They stayed poised in the second half, and despite the push there by the Hawkeyes, they were able to do enough to win.
Yeah, and I think you got to give the Iowa State defense a lot of credit too, where Iowa had the 16 play, 77 yard, 9.5 minute game tying drive in the third quarter. And Iowa State did not give up a touchdown there, which was obviously huge. But I thought even more impressive is like they looked worn down there. We heard Matt Campbell say after the game, he thought he saw some physical fatigue for the first time this year. And as stressed as Iowa is offensively, as stressed as they are at the quarterback position, the Iowa State defense looked like it was in a little bit of trouble there late in the third quarter. And then they come out and pitch the shutout in the fourth quarter. And I thought, McDonough gets the 2 sacks on Gronowski on that last drive where we didn't get a chance to talk to him, but the drive before he was in the medical tent. Like he was getting looked at for what I think was a shoulder issue. And instead of being done for the day, he's back out there in a critical drive for Iowa State and gets the game-sealing sacks. And like that was a huge moment for him, but obviously a great moment for the Iowa State defense, which really was great all game long until that third quarter drive where it looked like things could go the other direction for them. And for John Haycock and his group there, to re-steady themselves, that was really important for Iowa State tonight.
Yeah, and for Tom McDonough too. First couple of games, he didn't really show up on the box score. He was there, he was playing. It just didn't really feel like he was contributing much. But now this game, he has 6 tackles and he gets the 2 sacks at the end to help clinch the win and put the game away. That was a big moment for him. And also for Chase Sowell, we finally saw him get a couple of catches there. Still hasn't, scored a touchdown or made the big plays yet. But for him, after putting together 0 receptions, 0 receiving yards for the first couple of games, he got on the stat sheet there with his first couple receptions as a Cyclone.
Yeah, I think too, like the offense for Iowa State, interesting today. Like the running game never really got going in a meaningful way. Like it was able to move the ball a little bit, but Sama goes for 3.9 a carry. Carson Hansen's 4.2. Rocco moved the ball a little bit with his legs. Like that was definitely a part of the game plan. And then the wide receivers, Eskelson has the 35-yarder. Sowell has a couple of catches. But I also thought, first off, the tight ends were huge. Like Burkle had the catch on the tip pass was incredible. And I almost think the catch on the pop pass is more impressive because he had to turn his hips all the way around and reach behind him to make that catch of what is a tough throw by Rocco Beck, in that scrum there. Ben Bramer, 4 catches, only 18 yards, but a touchdown and a really impressive touchdown in that. And clearly the tight ends, at least in the short term, are going to lead the way in the passing game. They're getting enough from the wideouts, but I thought today was the first time where you could be like, oh yeah, having 2 guys that are a few months away from the NFL makes a big difference. Like we saw Overby, Eskilson, and then even Townsend with that tip maybe, drop tough passes. Like those are tough catches that all those guys had that they weren't able to make, that Higgins and Knoll made. And you can just see there's only that's the degree of separation between great and guys that are still developing in a program. And I do the things that you were concerned about that wide receiver group, just in terms of the drop off from Higgins and Knoll, I thought showed up today. And again, credit to Rocco Beck and Iowa State for figuring out a way, to make up on the margins. And, I thought, Burkle was a big part of that. Bramer was a big part of that. They really do like throwing to Hansen out of the backfield. I'm not out on Iowa State's wide receivers yet at all. I do think they have talent there. Both Overby and Eskilson have shown some interesting stuff. And I don't think you can throw in the towel on Sowell or Townsend yet either. But the clock is officially ticking in my mind on that wide receiver group to get going and start being more consistently productive.
Yeah, we're about to be through the first quarter of the regular season already at 3 games down. And I thought you brought up a great point during the game when we were watching it. And you said if you look when Rocco Beck is audibling or making adjustments at the line, everyone knows what to do. But if you look at Xavier Townsend, he's checking his wristband. He's making sure he has the right things. And that just kind of shows that those guys are still learning the schemes, they're still adjusting to the offense. But at the same time, 3 games in, when are they going to turn the corner? We haven't really seen that yet. We've seen little glimpses here and there. But I think overall, the wide receivers as a unit, yeah, the jury's still out. I wouldn't jump to any conclusions yet. I feel like you said they're getting enough from them. Plus, the tight ends contributing has been huge. Gabe Burkle, too, on that catch where he had to fully twist his hips around. That was also on 3rd down to help keep that drive alive and keep things moving. And for him being in the right place at the right time to save that tip pass from the one that bounced off Townsend's hands and almost could have gone into the Hawkeyes defense, he was there in the right place for a 17-yard gain. And it was also a pretty impressive catch on his part.
Yeah, and here's the thing, too. If you were 1-2, these would be problems. When you're 3-0, these are potential, right? Like that is the difference. Like if you're 1-2, everybody's like, this is a problem. That's a problem. You got to get better here. You got to get better there. If you're 3-0, it's like, hey, look how good they are, and you still have room to grow. And I think that is, the reality of that. This is a results-based business, and the reality and the positive reality for Iowa State is they're still like, this is not them at their ceiling. Like they're 3-0. They've played pretty good football, I think, pretty consistently now over 180 minutes. But you can still pretty clearly see where things can improve. And I do think that is a positive, especially, you look around the rest of the Big 12, like they're right there. Like, I don't know how you could have a discussion about the Big 12 without, if you want to put Arizona State at the top of the Big 12 right now, okay, fine. Like, I won't argue with you, but then you got to have Iowa State right there, I think, behind them, in my opinion, or 1A and 1B. And a lot of season to go. But let's talk a little bit about Kyle Konrady. Like, obviously we did last week with the 63-yarder, but like, what a weapon to have, like what a weapon and what a safety blanket too, to know that you cross midfield, you're in field goal range. If the game's on the line, you got a guy that has done it now multiple times and won you football games, which, at Iowa State, that it's less of an issue now when you look back at guys, like Chase Contreras, Cole Netton, that have had success in the last 10 years, but it's still a sore spot for Iowa State football fans who have been around long enough to see it not be this case. And for Konrady to be as consistent and as good in big spots as he has been now in his career is huge for Iowa State, especially as we're going to say a million times, I'm sure, this year, with how many close games they're going to be in. Again, like they've had 2 Power 4 games. And now they're 5-point difference between the two of them, 6-point difference between the two of them. Like having a reliable, big-footed kicker is a big deal.
Yeah, 2nd week in a row now where he's made a massive kick, and now 2nd year in a row where he's helped the Cyclones take the win in the closing minutes or closing moments of the game. For Konrady, too, it was interesting to see or hear from Rocco Beck that when they had crossed midfield on that last drive, they could have opted to push it, maybe risk a pass or try to do something bold, but they were okay with running it up the middle or putting the ball in an optimal spot between the hash marks where they felt like Konrady could kick it because they have just utmost confidence in him. They didn't feel like that they had to rush the ball downfield or try to attempt anything bold. They knew they believed in his abilities, and he converted in a big spot.
Yeah, I think that also reflects what they think of their defense in the Iowa offense too, right? Because there's still 2 minutes left. Like, that did feel like obviously an intentional decision by Campbell and Mauser to not get aggressive there. But that's your belief in Konrady, and then it's your belief that your defense is going to be able to get the job done. And like, man, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that other sideline this year. Like Gronowski, 13-24 for 83 yards. So he did crack the 100-yard mark for the season, which I guess is good. Like, not to pile on them, but I think I'd have to go back and double check. But I think of the last 5 Cyhawks, I don't know that they've had a quarterback throw for over like 120 yards. It's like they're in a tough spot, and that's a big reason why. Check this out on DesMoinesRegister.com. I think Iowa State as a program today, as we sit here on September 6, 2025, has surpassed Iowa. Like, they're in a better spot than Iowa. They've won 3 of the last 4. They've won the last 2. They won 11 games last year. It feels like a big season is possible for them, certainly not guaranteed. Where you look on the other side, the defense is still the defense for Iowa, but the struggles at that quarterback position have just poisoned fan sentiment and like the entire vibe over there to like a huge degree. And you look over at Iowa State, they've got Rocco Becht, who is going to be like second or third on all their career lists after this season with a year of eligibility to go. Like having stability, success, and production at the quarterback position just makes everybody feel better because you go into every game thinking you got a chance. Where if you're not getting what you need out of the quarterback position, you go into every game dreading it, right? Like, I got to go watch that offense just slog through 60 minutes and maybe we'll have a chance. Where you look at Iowa State, again, not a huge, they haven't been awesome offensively in their two Power 4 games, between Kansas State and Iowa, but they always felt like they were in it with Rocco Becht there. Obviously huge against Kansas State, big again today. Like, I just think Iowa State, the trajectory right now, I think far outpaces Iowa. And I think that's the first time you can probably make that big picture argument in at least 25 years and maybe ever, at least since, they reconvened in 1977.
Yeah, it felt like Iowa's points, or more than half their points, were just as a result of Iowa State miscues or just terribly timed plays, from the muff punt to the penalties that allowed Iowa to get that fresh set of downs and then turn into a touchdown. Gronowski, a quarterback, did not really inspire much. His throws were off the mark. I mean, the routes were short. He never looked comfortable out there. He looked more comfortable running the ball, which probably not what you want out of your quarterback. You'd like to see him sling it, and he probably attempted 2 or 3 downfield passes that went anywhere. But overall, there was just no juice there. Felt very limited when he was under center or just like back there. You already knew that he was either going to take off or just dump it down to somebody, and even the dump downs were not guaranteed passes. So it was not a great product out there.
Iowa State 16, Iowa 13, Cyclones 3-0, winners of the last 2 and 3 of the last 4. Cyhawks, they will now head to Jonesboro, Arkansas for everybody's favorite, a road game against a group of 4 team, this one being Arkansas State. Campbell talked a little bit about it after the game. Like, they're definitely not relishing this this spot, having to go down there. Like, I think they're going to win, but I do think, like, again, all things being equal, it'd be a game you'd rather not be playing in Jonesboro, Arkansas. Eugene is going to be there for us, so I'm sure. Eugene, have you done your do you have your Jonesboro guidebook yet, your tourist guidebook?
No, not yet. I don't even know if they have Reddit over there. I should be looking up stuff to do.
The reality is, though, Iowa State in a incredibly good spot heading into that game. They should go into their bye week 4-0, heading back into Big 12 play, really for the second time, or, for 2 straight years. When you look at the schedule, like, to get out to an extended undefeated start. And, it's still early and they got to play games. They got to play the game on Saturday. The last time Iowa State did something like this, they lost at Ohio. So you can't just chalk up a W. But again, when you talk about this team, I think it is important. The way that they play, rarely are they going to blow teams out. So it does come to they do the things that they need to do to win football games. And it wasn't perfect today, just like it wasn't perfect against K-State. But when you put up the tallies of doing what you need to do versus mistakes, doing what you need to do is the much lengthier list there. And I do think, again, that speaks very positively both about what Iowa State's done through 3 games and what it can do through the next 9+. You got anything else, or we good to get out of here?
We're good to get out of here. It chopped up for a second, but no, I'm good. I mean, bring on Arkansas State. I felt like we talked about it, read about it on DesMoinesRegister.com, and then let's go.
He's Eugene. I'm Travis. This has been the Cyclone Insider Show. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Be sure to check out DesMoinesRegister.com, both for everything we've got and for what our colleagues on the Hawkeye side have to say as well. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Catch you next time.